Drummer's Guide 2. So this week I'm answering a question from the lovely Morgan Hansen, who basically is just asking about my views on gear, because drummers, we love to talk about gear. We can't help it. Get two drummers in a room, all we'll talk about is drumsticks. And I joke, but I sort of don't joke, because genuinely that is my experience. So anyway, let's talk about gear. I think gear is such an interesting subject because I thought, when I was a kid, right, I thought that in order to be a professional drummer, or sound professional is more my point, you needed to have pro gear, which meant that you needed to spend thousands of pounds on the best gear possible. Now, when I was growing up, that was things like having a Pearl Masters drum kit, or a DW drum kit, or a Yamaha, Maple Custom Absolute. That was kind of the bar that was set. That was the view. And when I was a kid and I was learning, I was 12 years old, I was in school, and we had this beat up old Premier kit, which in hindsight was beautiful, and I kind of wish I knew where it was right now, because I'd be like, I'll buy that off you. But anyway, at the time, as a 12-year-old, all you want are the big shiny things, and this thing was like this kind of, what kind of blue was it? It was like a powder blue Premier kit. It was all scratched up. It'd been in the school for years, and I would play this kit. And every time I did, I was just like, meh, doesn't sound very good, but it's not me. Obviously, it's not me, it's the drums. The drums is the reason that I don't sound good. Until one day, one fateful day, when this kid called Ben Thomas came into the drum room. Now, Ben was 16 years old, and he was the best drummer in the school. He actually was the best drummer in the school. I don't know why I'm doing that, but no, he was. He had the most experience. He'd been playing for 4 years at the time, which, when you're 12 years old is like, oh my god, you're like a professional. And he came in, and by rights of the way of how school works, when he came in, everyone got off the drums and let him play. And he played this beat up old Premier kit, and it sounded incredible. Absolutely amazing. And I just could not understand, how was it that when I played this drum kit, it just didn't sound very good. It sounded awful, in fact. And then he plays it, and it sounds like the most awesome drum kit you've ever heard in your life. This was my very earliest experience of how important it is, more important it is, in how you play something, not what you're playing. So fast forward, how many years? 6 years, I suppose? 6, 7 years? I can never remember. Okay, so if you may have seen me talk about this before, but I had my first professional recording experience. I was like 17 years old, I think. 16, 17. I can't remember, honestly. My memory is horrendous. But the point was, I went in to do this professional recording experience. So I make it sound like it was like a red letter day, like an experience day. No, it actually was a professional session. It was the first one I'd ever gotten called for, and I was so unbelievably excited. Now, at the time, I had an entry-level Yamaha kit. It's a stage custom kit. I still have it. By the way, sounds awesome, can I just say, before I say what I'm about to say. And I had this drum kit, and it was an entry-level kit, and I was just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go do this session, and it's going to be awesome, it's going to be amazing. Anyway, long story short, and I won't focus on this too much, because if you want to hear about this, go look up my video on failure. You can hear the ins and outs of what happened, but the top and bottom of it was, it went horrendously, like literally couldn't be worse. And one of the things at the time that I focused on, like immediately afterwards, literally one of the first things I said to my parents when I came home in floods of tears because I'd been asked to leave because I was that bad, the first thing that I said to them was, my drums, that they weren't good enough. Like, it was the drums, they weren't professional enough. It's because it's like, an entry-level kit or some form of that. But the point was, I was still hung up about this concept that you needed professional gear or professional, I'm going to say professionally priced gear. I know that's probably quite bad to say, but let's just call it that. Professionally priced gear. So the upper end of the scale of pricing. Now, another thing that I learned, So I had this wonderful little Yamaha Stage Custom kit, right? Still got it. Now, on my 18th birthday, my parents said to me, okay, you're clearly doing this for your living. Like, you're going to be a professional. You know, I was so dedicated, obviously still am. And they were just like, as your 18th present, to show the amount of dedication that you've given to this instrument, it had been 7 years at that point, they said you can have, not whatever kit you can, but kind of, we will buy you a professional level kit. I'd been out gigging with my Stage Custom for years at this point, and it was just like, oh my god, I mean, this was like a dream, literally a dream. So I won't say the brand of kit that I decided, but I was like, this is the kit, this is the one, it's what I've always wanted, it's gonna be amazing, blah 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 blah. Got this kit, and it was expensive, especially for my family at the time. We did not have a lot of money floating around by any stretch of the imagination, and I got this kit and I was like, this is it. Anyway, I set it up and it had been tuned, and honestly I was just like, I was disappointed. I was like, this was not what I anticipated. It just didn't sound right. It didn't sing the way I thought it was going to. It didn't, you know, it didn't make me sound what I had in my head. And what I quickly realised was, actually, my little old Stage Custom, that first drum kit, my first drum kit that I got when I was 14 or whatever, sounded better. And it was like, I don't know, an eighth of the price? Something bonkers like that. It was something insane like that. And I was heartbroken. But I did learn a lesson. And that lesson, again, it took me 3 times. No, it probably took me more than 3 times. I'm only telling you about 3 times. But once again, it taught me that it was more about me as a player. What that actually told me more than anything was the tuning side of things. Because this drum kit, you had to tune it so specifically to get a decent sound out of it. And even then, there was one particular drum that just, I could not. To this day, I wouldn't be able to get a good sound out of it. Maybe that makes me a terrible tuner, and I don't care, to be honest, because I can get great sounds out of drum kits like this, out of my Yamaha 9000, which I have used on the road for years, and it has never sounded bad. It just sounds great. So the point is that it doesn't mean that I'm a bad tuner. Maybe we just didn't match, me and my drum kit at that time. I don't have it anymore because I just stopped using it. But now, my whole view of things like drums and tuning and even down to things like mics, obviously now I'm doing a lot of recording, and just the way to record, actually, the reality is there's no rules. And it doesn't matter if you've got £1,000 snare drum, say, and a 20 quid snare drum. They have equal value in terms of the sound that you can get from them. They will be different sounds, absolutely, but you can mess around with that 20 quid snare drum and it can sound amazing because it's so unique and so interesting. Equally, you can do the same with that £1,000 drum and it will sound completely different but no less valuable. So my view on gear is, whatever you have or don't have, no, whatever you have, just make it sound awesome. Like, just make it sound interesting and experiment with it. I think that there is a lot to be said for people that are willing to take risks in experimenting with the sound and things like the dampening, for instance. You know, if you've got a really ringy snare, chuck a tea towel on it. Some of my favourite drum sounds are literally me playing with tea towels over most of my drums, but they don't teach you that when you're a kid. You don't see that when you're a kid, not really. Well, at least I didn't. Maybe I would now if I was on Instagram as a kid. But the point is that gear, you've just got to find what resonates with you. Resonates, don't you like that? No, but literally, the thing that connects with you to your instrument. It won't be the same for everyone. There is no one perfect brand. There is no one perfect drum kit that is the best. It doesn't exist. What does exist is what's perfect for you, what speaks to you, what you're able to manipulate in a way that you can get a sound that you love. You want to fall in love with your own sound, not with what someone else is playing. You know, if you see a drummer playing a certain drum kit and it sounds incredible, it's like, that's awesome. What can I do without what I've got? That's all you should be thinking about. And that could even be down to, it could be electronics. It doesn't even need to be an acoustic kit. You could mess around with layering sounds till you create your sound. And again, I say this so often, but it's so true. Music is art. You've got to express what you are, who you are, what you have to say, and that can be through your sounds, what you play. But the point is, do not use, you know, a lack of money or anything like that to be an excuse. I was the best at making excuses because my gear wasn't good enough. I tell you what, the most used mic that I have on this drum kit, or one of them, it's a 20 quid mic over there. And you know what? In fact, it's not this snare drum that's there. There's a snare drum out there that I've used on more. In fact, so The Darkness, Last of Our Kind, that whole album, I used one snare drum. That snare drum cost me £90 from eBay. That was it. I mean, that's not exactly breaking the bank when it comes to drums. I know it's an expense, but it's not. It's, in fact, bar one, it's my cheapest snare drum. But I love it. It sounds amazing. I know how to mess with it. So I think that's it. Just use what you have. It doesn't even need to be drums. If you've got a random, I don't know, bit of, you know, like bath chain hanging about, you know, from like a bath plug, put that on your cymbal. Forget about, you know, that'll give you a nice sizzle. Put it on your snare drum, see what happens. Put it in your snare drum, see what happens. Just experiment, and I think that is going to be way more valuable than any money spent on expensive drums that may not even sound the way you think they're going to, because it's down to how you sound at the end of the day. So just be the best version of you. That's all you can do. Anyway, I'm going to stop going on. I'm sure you've heard enough of this. But thank you to Morgan for that lovely question and that point of discussion with myself, because I'm like a crazy person just talking to a camera by myself in a room. It's actually quite apt that the room walls are white. I've never thought that. Maybe I should stick some pillows on the wall just to really, you know, hone in on the fact that I'm a little bit nutty, but it's fine. Anyway, I hope this helped in some way. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, whatever you're up to. I hope that you're healthy. I hope that you're safe. And I will see you next week for another subject. All right, lots of love. Bye.